Hi there, students! I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. I'm a Puppy-sensei VTuber, and I make Japanese language lessons to help you level up your abilities. It's finally time. The promised moment has arrived. As the mists part to lay open the path before you, it finally becomes clear, shining like a beacon in the distance. The once and future Na-Adjective episode. Okay, don't get too excited though. Did I hype this up? Because if I'm being entirely honest with you, Na-Adjectives are hella boring actually. No, I'm being serious. Na-Adjectives are actually so extremely meh. No, I'm not going to do my one joke again and say that we're not going to do the episode. Although I happen to think that I'm moderately funny. But, it's fine. Let me be real. I've put this off long enough. Let's get into it. Here you go. Na-Adjectives. Ikimashou! Now, before we actually get into Na-Adjectives, I want to give you a brief, and I actually do mean brief, refresher about i-adjectives and how they work. Don't worry, I promise this will be quick. See what I did there? And y'all accused me of only having one joke. So, hayai is an example of an i-adjective. I-adjectives are just that. They are adjectives that end in i, and they come before a noun or a noun phrase to create a modified noun phrase by adding additional information to the noun within the scope of the sentence. They describe the noun. So, we can use hayai to change this sentence, 朝ごはんを食べました into this sentence, 早い朝ごはんを食べました. It makes sense. I hope. We've created a more complex noun within the sentence, from I ate breakfast to I ate a quick breakfast. And it's important that for Japanese, this sentence is legally distinct from an officially licensed and wholly marketable sentence, meaning I ate breakfast quickly. That'll be a totally different sentence with a totally different structure. I bring this up not to bang you over the head with basic grammar, but because I want to remind you that in English, sometimes the line between an adjective and an adverb can be a little bit fuzzy. Not so in Japanese, and in the future I'll be giving you an additional lesson on how we go about making adverbial phrases in Japanese. But not today. Now, there are two more things that I want to remind you of with i-adjectives, because I think it's important. First, adjectives can also appear post-nominally in Japanese. That means they can come after the noun. So let's compare these two sentences. 早い朝ごはんを食べました and 朝ごはんは早いです. The point that I want you to be aware of right now is that we can find i-adjectives in either of these positions, and in both cases, they're just working to modify the noun. They're either acting as a noun prefix to create a longer noun phrase in a sentence, if that sentence ends with a non-copula verb, right, not a des sentence, or in the case of an XYY des sentence, then the adjective is actually fitting into that Y position in the sentence structure. The other thing that is important to know about i-adjectives is that they can serve to express tense in Japanese, especially when they're being used after the noun in those X, Y adjective type sentences. We don't have that in English. In English, our adjectives don't conjugate for tense. And so this is an important point. Look, see. 朝ごはんは早いです and 朝ごはんは早かったです. By converting 早い to 早かった, we've put the adjective into past tense. And look, the sentence still ends with the present tense copula des. Why is that? because the tense of this sentence is found in the adjective and not in the copula, not in the verb. If we conjugated des into the past tense deshita, it would not be grammatical, and then you end up looking like a fool, and that's sad. Don't make Puppy-sensei sad. Creating the past tense for any adjective is really that easy too. You just drop e and you add katta. So here are some examples. Yasashi becomes yasashikatta. Subarashi becomes subarashikatta. Muzukashi becomes muzukashikatta, and so on and so on. And the final thing that I want you to remember about e-adjectives is that they can also have a negative form, which is also pretty straightforward and uniform. It's fairly easy to use. It looks like this. We're taking our first sentence, right? The original sentence, asa gohan wa hayai desu, ne? And we're going to turn that into a negative sentence just by converting the adjective. So that becomes asa gohan wa hayakunai desu, right? That's pretty easy. We're really just converting hayai into hayakunai to make a negative. That more or less works the same way that we saw with past tense, where we took our adjective and we turn it into a katta adjective, right? Turning it into the kunai form is really going to work the same way, and we're able to replicate that on any e adjective, just like these. Yasashi becomes yasashikunai. Subarashi becomes subarashikunai. Muzukashi becomes muzukashikunai. Ne? We're just basically conjugating the e into kunai to create a negative form of that adjective. And in the same way that we saw above, when we use this in a sentence, we'll use it with the regular plain des, because we don't need to turn the des into a negative or anything like that. Right? There's more to say here. There really is. But I promised you just a brief review, so that's it. Ijo desu. We're done. No more about e-adjectives. We're moving on to na-adjectives. But don't worry, I'm going to do a more advanced lesson on e-adjectives sometime in the future. Okay, so na-adjectives. What's thems then? Basically, na-adjectives are pretty easy to use. In most cases, they're actually going to behave in a way that really isn't unlike the way nouns work. The exception is that if they come before a noun as a prefix, they're going to take na in the same way that e-adjectives are going to take e when they form the prefix before a noun. Okay, so what does it mean that they act like nouns? We're going to talk about that soon. For now, let's see how these na-adjectives behave when they come before a noun. Today, we're going to focus on learning 4 na-adjectives. They are suteki, which means lovely, beautiful, gorgeous, something like that. Muri, impossible. Benri, convenient. And baga, baka. Now, as I said, when using a na-adjective as a prefix for a noun, you really have to have the adjective with na in order to affix it right to the noun. And in doing so, you create a noun phrase in the same way that we've previously used e-adjectives to form longer noun phrases. So, this will allow us to create sentences like this. フランスへ行った時に素敵なドレスを買った. And that means when I went to France, I bought a gorgeous dress, or a lovely dress, or a pretty dress, something like that. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny that I have ever been to France, but I can confirm that this is how you use suteki, right? When it's before a noun, it's going to become suteki na, and then that noun. It creates a compound noun for gorgeous dress, and it does this by linking suteki and doresu using na. I think it's important to keep in mind that this creates a new stable noun phrase. So actually, we could even move this whole phrase around in a sentence. Just like in this new sentence, この素敵なドレスはフランスへ行った時に買ったものです。And that means this gorgeous dress is the one that I bought when I went to France. I've created this new sentence here, and this time it's an XY sentence where I'm stating that it's this pretty dress that is the one that I bought while I was in France. The nuance is slightly different, but the connection of the suteki na doresu is exactly the same. And that's because when we use a na-adjective to describe a noun, we can't really separate them. We can't move the adjective away from the noun once we kind of form them together. That's because the newly created noun phrase really should be treated as one long noun. Okay, now let's learn another new na-adjective. 無理な要求ですが、絵をとってもいいですか? Moody is a cool word. It means impossible. No way. Can't be done. Can't do it. In this sentence, it's being used to describe a request, 要求, as unreasonable or impossible, since apparently this student believes that there is no way that they can get an A in the class. Students, I'm gonna tell you a secret. If you come to class, I'm gonna give you an A. Again, what we're doing here is creating a single unit with 無理な要求. It's all one thing. It's an impossible request. However, 無理要求は無理です. That's so funny. You can't use a na adjective like 無理 without the necessary na marker between the adjective and the noun. I mean, okay, sure, you can. People do it. People do it all the time. It's just technically wrong. It's technically not grammatical because you really should be connecting these two things with the na. Doesn't matter. Let's move on to another one. アパートの近いに便利なコンビニがあります. This sentence gives me butterflies in my tummy. It's actually a perfectly valid sentence in Japanese. It means near the apartment, there is a convenient convenience store. I know, it's redundant. But that's the weird nature of portmanteaus in Japanese. Most Japanese speakers wouldn't bat an eye at the phrase convenient kombini, even though in English, the phrase convenient convenience store kind of makes me shake my head. It's like wet bread, completely unneeded, right? Why do you need to specify that the bread is wet? Obviously, all bread is wet. You wouldn't dare. One last thing, and then we'll move on to a deeper explanation. Puppy-sensei no kyōshitsu ni baka na yurei ga imasu. Oh, hey! That's not nice. Anyway, baka is surely a word that you're familiar with, right? Unless you watch a whole lot of Korone-senpai, and then you usually probably hear baga, which is fine. She's cute. Baka means stupid. You might be wondering why baka is written with the kanji for horse and the kanji for deer. Well, that's easy. I can explain that so simply. That's because baka probably comes from a phrase about horses and deers or something. It's whatever. It's a stupid story anyway. Huh. A stupid story. That would be baka na hanashi. There's the pattern. It really is this simple. Na-adjective plus na attached to a noun creates a compound noun where that noun is kind of being described by that adjective. Okay, so we've learned a lot about na-adjectives and we've learned a lot about i-adjectives. How do you tell them apart? I'm going to show you 3 adjectives and I'll ask you to figure out whether they're i-adjectives or na-adjectives. Let's call this a mini quiz. All right, here we go. Here's the first one. Yume. It means famous. It's actually kind of cool because these kanji mean to have a name. So your name is known, and so therefore you are famous. Okay, what do you think? Is this an i-adjective or a na-adjective? It's a na-adjective. Sure, it ends in e, but the e sound is inside the kanji. So, yeah, you would say, yume na hito, a famous person. Another one. Do you know genki? Genki desu ka means something like, you feeling good? That genki means to be in good health, or high-spirited, or something like that. Okay, so what about genki? Is it e or na? It's another na adjective. Genki na koinu desu. I'm a spirited, high-energy puppy. Okay, one more. Kirei. Listen, I'm going to level with you, okay? They're all na adjectives. That was the bit. We could keep this going, but... Oh, wait, we don't actually need the timer. Thanks, not necessary. It's a na adjective. Actually, the point that I was trying to make is that, in all honesty, the most difficult thing about na adjectives is just figuring out whether or not it's a na adjective. Some of that really just requires memorization. You can always check the kanji. If it ends in e, but that e sound is contained within the kanji, then it's probably a na adjective. And if it ends in an e sound and the e happens to be outside the kanji, it's probably an e adjective. But even that, it's not always going to bear fruit every time you try to do it. And that's okay. In the end, you just kind of have to know. Now, we need to address the other thing about na adjectives. What happens when we want to use a na adjective after the noun? The way that we did with an i adjective, right? So before we saw this sentence, asagohan wa hayai desu, and we know that that's an i adjective. And how are we going to turn that into a sentence with the exact same structure, only with a na adjective in place of hayai here? Well, my dear, dear, dear students, you're not going to believe this, but it's super heckin' easy, right? So our new sentence is asagohan wa benri desu. It's that easy. Na adjectives don't take any kind of particle or require any kind of linking word when they come after the noun in an ex wa na adjective des structured sentence, right? So if we want to put a na adjective in that y place in ex wa y des, you just stick it there. It's really that easy. No na, no e, no conjugation. And why is that? Technically speaking, na adjectives are basically noun-like adjectives. Do you remember when we were learning colors and I taught you that some colors were definitely i adjectives, like akai, aoi, and shiroi, but a lot of the other colors acted more like nouns? Well, you guessed it, na adjectives are the same way. They also act like nouns. So basically, if a na adjective comes before a noun, it's going to need the na to link up to the noun so that it can form a longer noun phrase. But if it comes somewhere else in the sentence, then more than likely you're just going to stick it in unmodified without the need for na or conjugation or anything else. Examples include Puppy kohai wa fushigi desu. Puppy kohai is mysterious. Or, Manager-sama wa majime desu. Manager-sama is hardworking. Now, you could slightly alter this so that the majime would need to have a na. Take a look at this sentence. Manager-sama wa majime na hyena desu. Do you see what I've done? I'm adding a layer of complexity to the sentence by changing it from Manager-sama is hardworking to Manager-sama is a hardworking hyena. Manager-sama wa majime na hyena desu. It's pretty simple because actually both of these sentences are skeletally the same. they're basically exactly the same kind of sentence. They're both noun, wa, noun, des. This is this, basically. It's just that in the first sentence, that noun is majime, which is also a na-adjective, and it's being used to describe manager-sama. And in the second sentence, our noun that comes in the Y spot is actually a compound noun that means hardworking hyena, right? So really the only difference is whether or not we have a kind of simple descriptive noun, which is also an adjective, in that second slot, or if that second slot is filled up with a compound noun. Either way, we're going to treat them both like nouns, so that makes it really easy. Okay, tense with na-adjectives is next. You don't have to worry about it. You really don't have to worry about it, right? So let's look at this sentence. Asagohan wa benni deshita. The tense is not attached to the na-adjective because the na-adjective is acting like a noun. So instead of conjugating it, though the way that we have to do for an i-adjective, we just conjugate the copula des into deshita, and we're done. And we're going to do the same thing for negative sentences like this one. Asagohan wa benni de wa nai. See? Same thing. We just conjugate the copula, not the adjective. Oh. Oh. Oof. Okay. Well, I guess I better go then. Um, can you handle the quiz today? Okay. Bye everybody. Hi again, students. Nothing to worry about, nothing at all. I just had a meeting and it's not a big deal. I hope Manager Sama took good care of you during the quiz. How did you do? I would tell you that I would grade your quizzes later, but let's be real. I'm not into the whole grading thing. I don't like paperwork, and I really don't like putting pressure on people and making them feel bad. I'm an easygoing pupper. Students, I have been very busy lately. I have a lot going on. You'll know soon. Oof. That was odd. Anyway, I can't wait to see you all next week. I actually have some breathing room coming up in the next few days, so yeah. Maybe I'll do a surprise bonus stream on Twitch or something. Who knows? It is Cozy Christmas Games Dog Simber after all. For now, though, please lead with love. See you soon. Mata ne.